Just a few short hours ago, the Minnesota Vikings finally and officially introduced Kevin O'Connell as the next head coach of the franchise. During an introductory press conference they held tonight at TCO Performance Center alongside new general manager Kwesi Adofo-Mensah, he answered questions from the media. He set the tone and expectations for his job this season and beyond, and we're going to react to that right now. The questions that he was asked, the answers that he gave, sort of his tone throughout, and then what we can expect to happen from here on out now that the new general manager is in place, the head coach is in place, he's getting his coaching staff assembled. I believe the only empty positions as of this recording are offensive coordinator and special teams coordinator officially, and I would expect that those positions get filled by early next week, if not sooner. So what can we take away from tonight's press conference? Well, the answer is not very much. I think that you have to look at this from a wider perspective, because if we go back to when Kwesi Adofo-Mensah was introduced as the brand new general manager of the Minnesota Vikings, it sort of signified this new era of change. We didn't really learn all that much from that press conference other than really who he is and what he's about. You could try to take away things from the press conference tonight, but I think that it's better to hesitate and not jump to conclusions just based on the answers that he gave, because a lot can happen over the course of the next few months, because free agency, the draft, those things are rapidly approaching. We don't know what's going to become of this roster during this offseason, and just because things are the way they are now doesn't mean that they're going to be that way in the future. So let's keep that in mind as we roll through this. Kevin O'Connell was pretty well spoken at his press conference tonight, and I think that he hit it out of the park. And that's something to be expected. With introductory press conferences, it's the easy part of the job, is to be introduced for the first time, meet Vikings media, answer some questions, and there's no real hard balls getting thrown at you because you haven't done anything yet, right? So I think that he knocked it out of the park. He was very well spoken, answered questions very well, but that's to be expected. I think it would be more newsworthy if he bombed the press conference and didn't handle it very well. I think then we would have a reason to react to this in a different way. But of course, he was well prepared for it. He sounds like a great leader. He sounds like he's going to do wonderful things for the Minnesota Vikings. And I am very excited about the direction of this team. And I think that the team is in much better hands with Kevin O'Connell, Kwesi Adofo-Mensah, the coaching staff that they're assembling, compared to the 8-year era that we just exited with Mike Zimmer, Rick Spielman et al. So I at the same time, I'm hesitant to crown Kevin O'Connell like it seems like many people on social media are doing tonight, throughout Vikings social media, Twitter specifically, which is where I am on most of the time. I'm not going to be as quick to do that. I'm not falling head over heels. I'm not ready to run through a brick wall for Kevin O'Connell. Let's see you put your money where your mouth is first. I want to see some results before I officially say, yeah, you're going to be a guy that I go to bat for day in and day out. So while it's nice to see that he was a slam dunk in the introductory press conference, let's see what the results are going to be down the line before we set the expectations based off of a press conference that was honestly loaded with softball questions. Getting to the questions that he was asked, there was a few that stuck out to me. And number one was specifically his vision for the defense. I forget who asked the question, but it was a very good question because I hadn't taken into account or considered the fact that, he has a vision for the defense based on his experience as an offensive player, not just a coach, but as a player as well. And what it sounds like from, his expectations from Ed Donatel, he was asked basically up front, are you going to be running a 3-man front? And to some degree, he said yes. So I think we are going to be looking at a version of the 3-4, but more of a 4-2 with a nickel-based defense in mind. And he kind of alluded to that, that any more these days, just given the nature of how the rules favor the passing game for the offense, you kind of have to be in the 4-2 with the extra defensive back as opposed to having 3 linebackers on the field. So we can't expect that. He name dropped a few players today, specifically on defense: Eric Kendricks, Harrison Smith, and Anthony Barr. That was very suspicious because he talked up Anthony Barr as somebody that can be highly successful in the defensive vision that they have planned to scheme up. And it makes sense to me because I think that we've all kind of thought that Anthony Barr throughout his whole career would fit really well in a 3-4 defense as a stand-up outside linebacker rushing the passer. That would be something that he would be very good at. And I think that was probably one of the reasons why he almost signed as a free agent with the New York Jets a couple of years ago. Somebody can correct me if I'm wrong on that. I think they ran a 3-4 at that time. Maybe they still do. I don't know. I don't follow Jets football, but that's just something to think about. But Anthony Barr is an impending free agent. So this could be one of those scenarios where he's just talking about, the current assets that he has available to him and not specifically what's going to be happening down the road. Because at the same time, you can't really tip your cap to the rest of the league, letting them know what your offseason moves are going to be before you even do them. So I'm sure the rest of the front offices around the league have a little bit of an idea of what's going to happen with the Minnesota Vikings roster before it does. But don't put all your cards on the table just yet. It's just the introductory press conference. We're just getting the ball rolling. Save some stuff for later. Save some surprises for down the road when free agency and the draft are actually underway. He was asked about Kirk Cousins. Again, he made it sound like Kirk Cousins is going to be here. I would take that with a grain of salt because, the cap hit is the biggest hurdle that they have to get over. And, Chris Thomason, actually, of all people, was sort of asked, like, can you confirm, is Kirk Cousins going to be the starting quarterback for the Minnesota Vikings this year? Kevin O'Connell's answer was not really a dodge, but more of like a walk around, if you will. I think dodge is a little bit too strong of a word. He didn't deflect. He didn't try to change the subject. He just kind of gave the honest answer that he possibly could was, I understand that he's under contract and I anticipate having him here. And, we can build an offense around him to make him be more successful and help him out. And he, the question was also posed to Kwesi Adofo-Mensah in the same breath. I think Kwesi sort of dodged the question because he just sort of was like, what he said, I have nothing to add, if I could put it that way. He was also asked about, the culture of, coming from the Rams, winning a Super Bowl, and then what was he going to do to bring that over here? Again, it was a lot of the buzzwords that we heard from the first press conference where they introduced Kwesi as the new GM about, connecting the front office to the players. Collaboration, partnership was a word that they threw around. The two up there answering questions. So you could tell in the answers, in the tone of Kevin O'Connell, how and why Kwesi Adofo-Mensah and Vikings ownership really likes him. These guys seem like a match. Like this is a good match. This GM, this head coach, just by the way that they talk, by the way that they, speak about a shared vision, a collaborative project, you can tell why they really like Kevin O'Connell during the hiring process, and I can't blame them for doing it. So that's about it for my reaction to the press conference. I felt like it was kind of short, to be honest with you. I felt like there could have been a little bit more Q&A, but they ended it when they did, but that's fine. So yeah, that's my take on that. Let me know what you think in the comments below about the press conference. Where do we go from here? Outside of, finishing the coaching staff hirings, which I believe is just offensive coordinator and special teams is left to go, I think that we're going to start to see a lot of things get put into motion rather quickly because free agency is so close. They have to make decisions. They have to make decisions about this roster to, be able to afford to make the changes that they want to make and make this a contender for a Super Bowl, because I don't think that they're there yet. Kevin O'Connell talked a lot tonight about this roster being talent ready. He was even asked specifically, do you believe that the pieces are in place to be able to achieve your goals? And he said, yeah. He said, like, he doesn't feel like they're too far away. And, that I think is a glass half full approach. He's not going to sit up there and just, totally cut down players that are on his roster before he even, gets moved into his office. That's not how the world operates. But he seems to think that they're in a good spot. And he kind of alluded to that was one of the reasons that the job was approachable to him and that he was excited for the opportunity to take over the roster that he's inheriting. So very interesting press conference. Again, not a whole bunch you can take away from it, but, we can sit here and speculate all we want. But at the end of the day, he did what he had to do. He did his job today. He did it very well. And that's what you want to see. So we'll see what the results are of this hire as the months go on. And that's going to do it for me tonight. Let me know what you think in the comments below. Thank you for watching. I will see you in the next one.